Now, what if I told you that Dungeons & Dragons without combat isn't really even Dungeons & Dragons? Now hold on. Before you come for me with your dice bags and your 15-minute backstories, hear me out for a minute. I love a good tavern scene. I love exploration, I love political intrigue, dramatic roleplay, and awkward bard flirting as much as anyone else. But let's be honest. The moment everyone sits up in their chair, the moment the table goes quiet except for the sound of dice clattering, that moment is when the swords come out and the initiative gets rolled. Combat is the soul of this game, and by the end of this video, I'm going to prove to you why fighting monsters is the engine that drives the entire D&D experience. I'm Monster Mechanics, and if you've ever wondered why dragons have breath weapons, or why your character sheet is mostly filled with ways to hurt things, then this video is for you. Let's roll. So here's the thing most people forget when they talk about D&D, like it's just a big improv session with fancy math. The game is built on 3 pillars: exploration, social interaction, and combat. But only one of those pillars gets a full-on tactical system with initiative order, a 6-second action economy, and a literal chapter in every core rulebook dedicated to it. Spoiler alert, it's not social interaction. We have rules for armor class, damage types, cover, saving throws, legendary actions, regional effects, turn order, concentration checks, all of it. You know what doesn't have a subsystem that complex? Giving a good speech. There's no CR calculator for how convincing your bard is. There's no opportunity attack when someone tries to lie in a conversation. But step into combat, and suddenly it's chess with fireballs. And that's not accidental design. That is the design. Look at the character sheet. Most of what's on there, combat related. Your hit points, your spell slots, your weapon attacks, your ability to tank, sneak, stab, blast, heal, or control the battlefield. That's where your class shines. That's where the mechanics sing. Combat is the crucible that makes all those numbers actually mean something. It's where the abstract becomes real. Your barbarian's rage? Cool in theory, absolutely visceral when they're tanking a mind flayer to protect the cleric. Your wizard's 18 intelligence? That's not just good for trivia. That's a tactical nuke when the right spell hits at the right time. And that right there is why we roll the dice. Alright, let's talk books, because if you crack open the player's handbook, the Dungeon Master's Guide, and the brand new Monster Manual, you'll see something really obvious once you start paying attention. Combat dominates the page count. The player's handbook? Whole sections on combat rules. Spells are organized by range, duration, saving throws, and damage output. Class features? Most of them tie directly into combat mechanics, whether that's extra attacks, sneak attack, or ways to tank better. The Dungeon Master's Guide? Pages and pages on encounter building, challenge ratings, lair actions, traps, terrain effects, morale, and how to make combat dynamic. Not just balanced, but memorable. And then there's the Monster Manual. Let me be crystal clear. Every monster in that book is built for a fight. Yes, they've got flavor text and lair descriptions and spooky motives of their own. But when push comes to shove, they've all got stat blocks, hit points, armor class, legendary resistances. They are born for the battlefield. Take the Aboleth. This ancient mind-controlling nightmare has lair effects that corrupt the water for miles. It can dominate your mind, rot your body with a mucus curse, and force psychic connections to puppeteer you. That's not just flavor, that's combat design. Tactical, terrifying, and meant to be used at the table. Or the Animal Lord, full of radiant powers, legendary actions, and battlefield control. Gorgeous lore. But that stat block, that's an invitation to throw down. This is the secret baked into every rulebook. D&D is a combat-first game that invites story to bloom from the chaos of battle. Here's where I think a lot of people miss the point. Combat isn't separate from roleplay. It is roleplay, just at a higher temperature. When a paladin steps between a demon and the terrified villager, that's not just a movement on a grid. That's a statement of values. When a rogue hides in the shadows instead of helping the fighter, that's not just a bonus action. It's a character choice. And when the warlock burns their last spell slot on Hellish Rebuke because they just watched their familiar get destroyed, that's a story beat. That's rage, grief, and fire all wrapped into one. Combat is where your character's beliefs, instincts, and flaws get put to the test. Do you protect the healer? Do you chase the fleeing boss and leave your friends behind? Do you surrender because it's the smart thing? Or do you stand your ground because you're sick of running? These aren't just numbers, they're turning points. Every initiative roll is a drumbeat. Every action you take says something about who you are. The battlefield is a stage, and guess what? Everyone is watching. You've got the spotlight for 6 seconds. What do you do? This is why combat isn't just mechanics. It's narrative. It's emotional, it's personal, and it's cinematic. When it's done right, it tells a story you can't script, because the dice are improvising with you. Now here's where it gets really good. Combat in D&D isn't just player versus monster scenarios. It's a collaborative drama. It's the party as a unit. It's a symphony of chaos where everyone's got their part to play, and the beauty is in how those parts collide. Your fighter charges the front line and takes the hits. The cleric holds up a shield of faith, calling down radiant fire. The rogue slips around the side, silent, deadly, precise. And the wizard's holding their last spell, waiting for the perfect moment. It's not just strategy, it's suspense. Everyone's heart is pounding because your turn is coming. And you, as the DM, you're not just running monsters. You're running tension, you're building a puzzle out of blood and steel, giving the party a story to rise against. You're throwing in lair effects, reinforcements, environmental hazards, a collapsing bridge, a crumbling staircase, a magic storm that shifts the battlefield. Suddenly, it's not just about the damage output, it's about the decisions that are being made. And that's what makes combat alive. It's the most communal part of the game. The moment where everyone at the table is engaged, focused, and locked in. There's no phones out. Nobody's checking their notes. Everyone is in the moment. When the party pulls off a clutch combo, when the ranger's arrow knocks the enemy prone just before the barbarian leaps off a ledge for a reckless attack, that's not just a win, that's theater. That's high-fiving around the table stuff. That's why we play this game in the first place. Look, I get it. Someone out there is already angrily typing, "But what about the roleplay?" And I say to that, exactly. Combat is roleplay. It's roleplay at sword point. Every decision you make in combat is still coming from your character's heart. Your cleric doesn't heal the barbarian because it's optimal. They do it because they believe people deserve a second chance. Your sorcerer doesn't twin fireball because it's flashy. They do it because they've spent their whole life terrified of that power and now they need it. Combat doesn't replace roleplay. It amplifies it. It's the proving ground. It's where all the stuff your character believes gets tested under pressure. You can tell me your rogue is loyal all day long, but let's see what they do when they're the last one standing and the treasure's unguarded. The fight doesn't interrupt the story. The fight is the story. Alright, and if combat is the soul of D&D like we've gone over, then what about the monsters? Well, the monsters are the blood that keeps it pumping. Every single stat block in the monster manual is a challenge waiting to become a story moment. These creatures aren't just bundles of hit points. They're expressions of theme, pacing, and tone. An Aboleth, the thing we went over earlier, it's not just a big slimy fish with tentacles. It's an ancient trauma that wants to puppeteer your paladin's brain. In a Remoraz, that's not just a hot bug, it's a time bomb under the snow. When you build your encounters with that mindset, it changes everything at your table. You stop just throwing goblins in a hallway, and you start asking yourself, what do they want? How do they fight? What terrain favors them? You build an encounter where the goblins are up on the ledges with their bows, and the rogue can't sneak because there's no cover. Suddenly, the fight isn't just combat, it's full-scale warfare. Or, think about this, an ancient bridge over a chasm, wind howling, crumbling stone beneath their feet. On the far side, a winged monstrosity with knockback attacks. You're not just tracking initiative now. You're thinking about positioning, movement, and then potential consequences. Or maybe it's a ritual chamber where the bad guys are stalling the party with the ritual, building towards a catastrophic finish. The clock is ticking, the stakes are rising, and every round matters. Monsters tell stories when you let them fight like they're trying to actually win. Combat should be the most memorable part of any session. And when you use monsters like they're part of the narrative, when you build encounters around theme, space, and goals, it will be. Now for a moment, let's play this out how this would feel in a narrative setting. Rain lashes the shattered stained glass windows of a crumbling cathedral. The roof groans overhead as wind howls through the rafters, and the water floods the floor, turning the aisle into a shadow pool. The adventuring party, soaked, bleeding, exhausted, descends the ruined steps towards the altar. There, in the center of a ritual circle carved into the stone, a black pool churns with psychic energy. Cultists chant in unison, voices raised to something ancient. And from the depths of that swirling void, it rises. An aboleth, slick, serpentine, impossibly large. Its three eyes open, glowing green in the dark. And in that moment, it sees everything. The paladin steps forward, sword drawn, calling for the cultists to surrender. They do not. Roll initiative. Round 1. No roar, no warning. The aboleth's mind lashes out, and the cleric's eyes glaze over. The spell hits. Dominate mind. One heartbeat later, the party's healer turns, calmly raises her holy symbol, and steps away from the group. The wizard panics. Do I know what happened? You do. You've seen this before. Mind control. You've got one chance to break it. Not yet. Round 2. The rogue bolts left, boots splashing through the flooded nave, trying to flank. But he slips too close to the water. A tentacle coils around his leg and yanks him under. He's grappled. The aboleth doesn't move. It doesn't have to. It's already winning. The cultists continue the ritual. The summoning circle pulses. 4 turns left. The dominated cleric raises her symbol and casts Spirit Guardians. Ethereal angels erupt around her in a deadly halo, wings of radiant fire spinning like blades. The paladin has to choose: walk through the divine storm to reach the aboleth, or try to talk her back. He hesitates. The wizard finally acts. One of the cultists begins chanting the final words of the ritual. He counters it. Arcane energy explodes, canceling the spell, but that's just a delay. The rogue struggles, tries to stab the tentacle with a dagger, barely breaking free. He surfaces, gasping, covered in mucus that burns his skin. Then round 3. The cleric begins to cry, because she's still attacking her friends. She knows what's happening, she just can't stop. That's the moment the paladin steps forward, through the radiant storm, through the pain, grabs her shoulder and says her name. Just that, her name. She blinks, fights it, and breaks free. There are still 3 cultists, and the Aboleth is still healthy. The ritual is still unstable. But now the party is together again, and the real battle can begin. And none of this was planned. Not the grapple, not the domination, not the speech. That wasn't a script. That was initiative rolls. It was saving throws. It was decisions, reactions, and desperation. That's what combat is in Dungeons & Dragons. The story at full volume. So for those of you who thinks this video is too long, didn't want to watch it all, and you want to get the key takeaways I have for you today, what did we just learn? Well, first, Dungeons & Dragons is built around combat. That's not a flaw, it's the engine that runs the game. It's where the rules live, it's where the tension brews, where your character's choices are tested under fire. Second, combat is storytelling. It should be cinematic. It should be emotional. It's not just about what you can do. It's about who you are when it counts. And third, when you run monsters like they want to win, when you build battles with a story in mind, when every action has weight, you're not just rolling dice, you're writing legends. And finally, that's why we come back to the table, because every fight is a chance to become that hero that you want to be, or to fall trying. Well, that's it for today, adventurers. If this video made you want to rewrite your next boss fight, or finally let your monsters fight dirty, do me a favor. Like, subscribe, and drop a comment with your most chaotic cinematic combat moment. I want the drama. I want the heartbreak. I want the natural one at the worst possible time. And hey, if you thought this was spicy, just wait until next time. We're talking about why running away might be the most heroic thing your party ever does. I'm Monster Mechanics. Thanks for watching, and remember, roll smart, fight hard, and never waste your bonus action.